Xbox got their credit card out again, and this one's a doozy. We get our first creepy look at Moon Knight. And I think even Tommy Tallarico could appreciate how great the new Kirby game looks. All that and the latest in everything cool today in The Rundown. Hey, welcome to The Rundown. My name is Victor Lucas, and I am so happy that you have joined us today in the Electric Playground. We have huge news to report, but first, we have a sponsor to thank, and that is the Gaming Stadium. Thank you so much for sponsoring us. They are Canada's leader in online esports tournament facilitation, and they've got tournaments happening every single weekend that you don't want to miss out on. And you can find out all about them at tgs.gg. We also have a dedication in the show. I love to give a shout out to the people that watch the content on YouTube. Hello, I see you. Thank you very much. This one is going out to Todd Fox, who commented on yesterday's show. Wait, there were 10 whole good movies in 2021? Talking about the countdown that I did. I talked about my 10 favorite movies from last year. And yes, there were some very good ones. I'm not going to spoil any of those numbers. You got to watch the video. Yeah, lots to talk about in the movie world. But there is a ton to talk about in video games. Let's get going with the rundown. Today, Xbox announced that they are purchasing Activision and Blizzard, and I guess we'll add King in there, which is their mobile division, although I'm not crazy about seeing Candy Crush in that graphic in there. This is a huge deal. It's worth about $70 billion American, which I think is about almost $1 trillion Canadian, if I'm not mistaken. It is so much money, and it includes brands that we're so familiar with: Call of Duty, Warcraft, Candy Crush, Tony Hawk, Diablo, Overwatch, Spyro, Hearthstone, Guitar Hero, Crash Bandicoot, StarCraft, and more. And it's a crazy cornerstone kind of moment for the video game industry. Phil Spencer wrote a nice long letter on Xbox Wire, which is what I just showed you right there. And basically what this means is that Activision and Blizzard's games are going to be owned. They're going to be first-party titles from Xbox. That includes recent releases like Call of Duty Vanguard, but also this obviously goes through the entirety of the Call of Duty franchise. So all of the classic Call of Duty games are going to be a part of this. As part of the information that we got on this deal, Phil Spencer and his team also revealed that 25 million subscribers have signed up to Game Pass, and I think that is the corner nugget right there. That's why we're going to see games like Diablo maybe kind of transition away from Blizzard Nets, their sort of online service, and move over to Microsoft servers and as part of Game Pass. So Diablo 4 might be, well, it will be a Game Pass title, and who knows how it's going to be played if the Battle.net subscribers and account holders are going to be transitioned to Microsoft's first-party account system or something like that. That's for Microsoft and Activision and Blizzard to all figure out. But we're going to see Diablo as a first-party title, which is insane. Not just Diablo 4, but all of the classic games and even the mobile games are going to be owned by Microsoft and by Xbox. Overwatch, I think, is so fascinating because this is a shooter that has kind of done an amazing job at bringing all kinds of people in and making it super accessible. It's very cartoony and beautifully crafted, and I think it's a T-rated experience. So I think as it moves and translates over to Game Pass and sort of as part of this bigger subscription model, I hesitate to say free because, of course, you've got your monthly charge, but there will be a much bigger adoption rate here than having to plunk down the $70 sort of upfront purchase cost for a game like this. And what, of course, that is going to mean for the player base is it's going to be enormous. This game has already been in development for years and years and years, and so by the time Overwatch 2 drops, it's going to be absolutely incredible and a really important title for Game Pass, and I'm sure that that's all part of the decision here. It's a tremendous deal. I'm also curious to see what Activision does under the guidance of Xbox now with their classic library. I pulled up a few 2600 games. That's the thing about Activision. It's such a such an incredible name in video games, and it dates back to programmers working at Atari on Atari 2600 titles being fed up with the way that management at Atari was treating them, and they started their own company and reverse engineered how to make cartridges for the Atari 2600, and thus Activision was born. And it also gave a lot of credence to the idea that game developers were artists and put their names in advertisements and commercials and stuff. An incredible story in video games. And of course, we're seeing something kind of similar with what is happening at Activision's Blizzard Studios right now. We see that management has been abusive to employees. There's been strikes, there's been walkouts, there's been all kinds of turmoil. There has been some change, but Activision Blizzard has not been in the news for the right reasons over the last couple of years. And I think that this has also been something that Phil Spencer and his management team have tried to kind of look at. I think this honestly opened up a little bit of an opportunity as they investigated some of the, duplicitous and dark things that were happening around Activision Blizzard and the way that people were being treated there. They probably saw that this was a company that was, as we all see, that this is a company ripe for cleaning up and a little bit of a reinvention, and that may have led to this decision, which is kind of interesting. Anyways, Phil Spencer says, as a company, Microsoft is committed to our journey for inclusion in every aspect of gaming among both employees and players. We deeply value individual studio cultures. We also believe that creative success and autonomy go hand in hand with treating every person with dignity and respect. We hold all teams and all leaders to this commitment. We're looking forward to extending our culture of proactive inclusion to the great teams across Activision Blizzard. Now, I suspect that Bobby Kotick, who is still in charge of Activision Blizzard, won't be a year from now. I think that this is also his parachute out, and I don't think he's going to get that walk of shame that I think a lot of people were expecting might happen with him. I think this is his way to, have a very, very comfortable escape hatch out of the damage that has been associated with his company over the last couple of years. This is his way out, which is kind of crazy. But that might lead to better days for. Well, one would hope that this is going to lead to much better days for employees, but also some of the brands, right? I mean, one of the things that we can definitely associate with Call of Duty, Vanguard was a very fun game, but it's one of the lowest selling Call of Duty games in recent memory, and you can attribute that to a bunch of different reasons. I'm sure the bad news didn't help get this game into more people's homes and onto more people's television sets, but it's a very fun game, and it's a well-crafted, well-made game. But I think that there's an exhaustion with this idea that Call of Duty has to come out every single year. And really what Microsoft is doing here is readjusting for the future of the medium, not just the future of the Xbox brand, but where games can go and grow. And Phil Spencer has been quite upfront that he's looking for billions of gamers and billions of players. And, quite frankly, that mobile space that Activision Blizzard and King have carved out is a part of that for sure. And, I'm sure Game Pass is going to be heavily marketed and promoted as part of every free-to-play thing that comes from the King umbrella from here on out. It's going to be interesting to see Diablo kind of take over more market share and become a even more accessible and mainstream title, because that's really what Microsoft is proposing here, is using the assets and the know-how and the development history and experience that Activision Blizzard has had, and sort of amping everything up and giving more people access to this content, and that's been something that the video game industry has struggled for a long time. And this 25 million number on Game Pass is quite extraordinary, because when you think about it, I didn't have time to get the total statistic numbers on or subscriber numbers on Disney Plus right now, but I suspect it's hovering around 100 million. So if you think that a quarter of those people, not specifically those people, but a quarter of the people that subscribe to something as mainstream as Disney Plus are subscribed to Game Pass under the Xbox banner, and there's some association with kind of an elite gamer kind of attitude around Game Pass, and 25 million people have already signed up. That's enormous. And the thing that I really have been thinking about is that, Microsoft watched as Netflix converted from physical media to a digital streaming studio service, pumping probably about the same amount of money that Activision Blizzard is being bought by Xbox for into linear content every year. Netflix is doing that, plus they're now getting into games. But they also watched Apple Plus, the Apple TV Plus launch, and now Apple is, winning awards. They're likely going to win BAFTAs and Emmys and, maybe Oscars down the road. They're watching Disney Plus kind of launch all of this stuff. And I think they saw that the opportunity for linear was escaping them. Because they did have some inroads. They had a whole studio. They were going to make television shows and all kinds of stuff, but they gave that all up to invest back into video game content, as the Xbox documentary kind of points out. If you watch that, you can see that they made some really calculated decisions after Xbox One launched, and it didn't do the numbers that they expected to kind of refocus on video games. But they've seen all of these other technology companies enter this space, and Amazon is launching pretty damn good shows as well. I think what Microsoft has kind of pivoted to is they've said, well, there can be videos and shows and movies and stuff happening from these other competitors out there. Let's own this gaming space. And I think that's really what this Game Pass move and these huge acquisitions are all about. They're going to win BAFTAs for their games. They're not going to win BAFTAs for their shows, at least not yet, but they're going to start to win BAFTAs and awards and accolades and recognition and market share based on their investments there. Because it's a battle of time. It's not a battle of hardware anymore, and it's quickly becoming that. So this acquisition is so significant in so many different ways. It certainly got me thinking about the past of Activision. It got me thinking about games that I would love to see pop up on Game Pass, and that's what I want to read and hear from you guys as well. Let me know in the comments below what games you would love to see pop up from Activision Blizzard's history on Game Pass. I thought of Ultimate Spider-Man, which I know is probably mired in all kinds of rights issues, but Activision had a long run with really cool Marvel games, and this was one of them. This was a Brian Michael Bendis scripted game. The comic writer and the creator of the Ultimate Spider-Man series, I think Mark Bagley was the artist, so they really tried to create the look and feel of the comic book in video game form, and it was really cool. Love to see that pop up again. Staying on comic-based games, I think Deadpool has resurfaced a couple of times. I think it would be remarkable to see Deadpool just suddenly pop up on Game Pass. I think that would be wild. And one more comic book one, because I guess I have superhero video games on the mind. I often do. Shattered Dimensions is one of my favorite superhero games, one of the best Spider-Man games, and it's just been sitting there languishing. You can still pick it up on PC, but it would be incredible to see this thing just pop up on Game Pass and millions of new people have access to this incredible game, which still plays beautifully, by the way, in 2022. This is a very interesting thing, and I think what it speaks to is Microsoft not competing with Sony or Nintendo. They're looking at Apple, which is a $3 trillion company. And they saw Apple invest in a bunch of different ways, including games. And there's no reason why Apple can't, invest more into games and make some huge acquisition, development and publisher acquisitions of their own to kind of go head-to-head against Microsoft here. But I think, everybody's been watching Sony and Microsoft go head-to-head, but Microsoft has been looking way down the road and saying, well, what big bets can we make? And they are leveraging against Microsoft's $1 trillion value as well. They're spending Microsoft money on games, and Sony doesn't have that scale. They're not a $1 trillion company. They're about a $50 or $60 billion company, and in its entirety, with all the movie studios and all the consumer tech and all the other things that they do. And it's really about services. It's really about those subscriptions, those guaranteed monthly investments. Microsoft makes a ton of money on services. Apple makes a ton of money on services, but also on games. If you look at the amount of money that Apple makes on App Store games, what we're seeing here, guys, is the emergence of the idea that video games, just on the precipice of the metaverse about to happen, and we're hearing Facebook trying to scramble to put together their metaverse, but I really feel like people are not going to go with the Facebook branded metaverse. I think it's going to be other purveyors. It might be Microsoft. Disney is definitely going to be involved. Once Apple has an AR, VR headset, I think there's just going to be no competing. And Facebook is going to feel, because they're not really a content space, it's about content, man. People are not going to be, they're going to want to have access to the cool content, and Microsoft is getting ahead of that with games, and that's what they're looking at. They're not looking at Sony and saying, well, we have to trounce PlayStation in this generation. They're thinking, well, how do we just leapfrog over all of this? And like they've only sold 11 million Xbox Series platforms, Series S and X, I think, or something like that, or 12 million. They have 25 million subscribers to Game Pass, and guess what? Samsung's going to be putting the Game Pass app into their television sets this year, and more people are going to be streaming that stuff on their phones. And PlayStation has been really, I'm not knocking PlayStation. They're an incredible company. I love their games. I love their hardware. I love PlayStation. But they have been very much surrounding their properties with their arms and kind of doling stuff out and testing the waters a little bit. And they can't afford to take $70 billion bets like this. But this gets very, very interesting. So we're going to hear about whatever PlayStation is planning with their codename Spartacus thing soon. I think this kind of popped a balloon a little bit because just the scale of all of this is just so freaking huge, the fact that we're going to see all of these different games. But I want to include some of the chats from you guys here, some of the comments in the chat, because we're doing this rundown live, by the way, those of you watching this content on YouTube. I stream the rundown live, and I have a live chat streaming in. It's twitch.tv/EPN. So if you ever have time to come and join the live version of the show, would love to see you there. Let's see. Ethan Joy says Nintendo's market cap is $61 billion. Microsoft spent more than that just on Activision. Yeah, because you got to remember, I think Microsoft spent more than that than what Disney is worth right now on Activision. Because you have to remember that Activision isn't just a video game company that puts these video games out. They have so many licenses and so many different attached issues to each one of these properties, and not the least of which is the regular subscribers and the regular purchasers of their mobile games, and the people that are just big time into all of that stuff. That's a tremendous amount of money, but it is going to be interesting how they navigate the perception issue around Activision Blizzard, and how they navigate the antitrust kind of dilemmas that might come up. Question from The Last Disciple. On PC, do you think Battle.net will stay or go with this acquisition? I would really love to see those platforms games come to Steam. Last Disciple with a great question. I think that there is going to be less distribution of eyeballs and more kind of bringing them under the umbrella of Game Pass. I think that's what the investment is. This is Microsoft's Netflix or Microsoft's Disney Plus, and I don't think that they're going to want to have all of these competing streaming services or these competing verticals around their online space. I think they're going to continue to streamline and make it as immediate and simple for people to just go click. I mean, there might be different tiers and different rates like we're seeing with Netflix right now, but I think that they're going to do everything they can to kind of make it for players to not even have to lift a finger to figure out, okay, well, how do I access this thing? They're going to really push on streaming over the next several years. And I think this really explodes. I think the reason why we're seeing these mega deals with Activision and Blizzard and last year with Bethesda, it's about collecting all of this content and getting it out to people and monetizing on that for sure. But this metaverse kind of move is a huge deal. We have been toying around with AR and VR in a bunch of uncomfortable and clumsy ways for a long time, but it's about to get super accessible and super cool, and we're all going to want to test this out. And I think It's going to be tied to the ubiquity of what cell phones have been and smartphones have been over the last 15 years or so. There's going to be a really analogous route there. And what people do with their cell phones and smartphones, as we can see from all of these billion-dollar valuations on these companies that eclipse a lot of these famous game studios that we've known for years and years, is they make a lot of money. And so I think Microsoft is thinking that's where we want to be. We want to have our stuff ready to go, and all of these brands and all of these, libraries and catalogs of titles. When people get glasses style AR, glass weight, like a pair of glasses, you stick them on your face and you can disappear into those worlds. And better, they want to be ready with all of this stuff. Risks are high here for Microsoft, just inherited a mess, but the rewards could be astronomical. That's from Sting1 Chameleon. Yeah, absolutely. This is, new waters, and it's tricky waters. I tweeted out that what this does, it doesn't put Sony behind the 8 ball, because Sony can't move like this, unless they went and merged with another company or got massive investment from somebody, and that's possible. But the thought that I had is, this is also an opportunity because, Netflix is in the gaming space, and that's going to do nothing but increase. But we're also going to see, more games coming out from Apple and stuff. But I think the competitors to Netflix are also going to start thinking about how do we keep people in games? Because you got to think it's not just about what we see on our TVs. It is now, what we know of entertainment and media consumption is all based on sort of this two-dimensional kind of attached to our television sets and our consoles and our computers and all that stuff. But we're about to go, screenless and enter into, I hate, it sounds so buzzwordy, it's kind of gross, and I don't like the dollar signs that light up a lot of the people that are figuring this out, but I think it's inevitable that we are going to have super light hardware that's super comfortable and eventually affordable, because it won't be the hardware, it's going to be all the things that we consume with it. And I think that's what companies are looking forward to. You have to think that Disney and its investments into Lucas and Marvel and all the other things out there is and theme parks is wondering what that sort of three-dimensional evolution is. And so the thought that occurred to me today is that why doesn't Disney make a deal with PlayStation and bring PlayStation into Disney Plus? I know this sounds crazy right now, but also tidy up a lot of the Sony Marvel discussions that have been happening around Spider-Man and that universe of characters, and also does something with the consumer tech, because Sony could make all kinds of cool tech that people could purchase or enjoy through their parks, which could be, and they're getting big into VR, which translates to this meta space as well. That's the type of thinking and the type of move that Microsoft has just made. It's not just we're buying all the games and putting them on Game Pass. It's like, no, we are carving out this many millions of people's time and attention, and we're giving them games as their entertainment escape. And we're competing with Netflix and Apple and Disney Plus and all of these other massive things that we have heard games we're going to move into for many years, but that's finally happening. And this is one of the biggest moments that has ever illustrated that in the history of the video game industry. And Greg, this is a good question or a good comment. Greg LG says, first time chat, thank you for being here. Says there may be one more iteration of console hardware and then it's all in the cloud streaming. Well, I think there's going to be comfortable headsets that we're going to have that, and streaming. It's going to get crazy. Like we have a tough time, I think, visualizing or comprehending where this is all about to go. We can look at Ready Player One, but it's, and things like Stadia and xCloud and all that stuff, we can kind of piece it together, but it's going to get pretty it's going to get pretty nuts, man. This is such a big deal, this $70 billion deal that's happening. Liquid 3600 says, really hope Microsoft can fix Blizzard because Activision and the toxic workplace issues have really done a number on their reputation. Talk about buying a load of dirty laundry. I think that was part of the equation, you know, and that might be part of the way they're going to circumnavigate some of the, the antitrust issues. Because, Activision has been in trouble. First of all, Activision and Blizzard employ thousands of people, I believe. At least hundreds and hundreds of people. They're in trouble with their investors. They're in trouble with the government. And I think there's some really, really top-level discussions going on around all of this stuff. It's so significant. With Microsoft buying more studios, it just means I have to wait longer to play all my fave franchises in VR, but I will wait nonetheless. VR Grid says. Yeah, VR as a standalone piece of escapism, it's just going to be a nugget of wherever this metaverse kind of, and I sound like I'm such a proponent of it. I'm scared of the metaverse. I'm freaked out, I don't want people to just be disappearing into their virtual world forever, and games have the opportunity, the propensity to do that anyways, but it's going to get so crazy. I mean, it's truly entering the Matrix. But VR will just be a section of that, We're going to be walking down the street with AR-connected metaverse information happening, and we'll just be able to tap a button on something, and we're going to enter into a VR experience, and there'll be haptic feedback and suits and all the crappy, crazy, weird things that Ready Player One was, prophesizing. It's gonna get crazy, but at the end of it, the reason why we're going to want to be in there is because of content. We're really going to want that. Halo Wars crossed with Warcraft 2 from 5-star only. Yeah, I mean, that's also something that starts to get really insane here, right? Like Halo and Call of Duty all of a sudden becomes a possibility. Like a future Call of Duty evolves into Master Chief and training genetic warriors and things like that, super soldiers. This is a huge deal. I want to know your thoughts. I want to know, especially if you've got any background in law or acquisitions or business or whatever. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, whether it's on this stream right now or on the YouTube video in the comments below. Let us know. I think this is a super fascinating moment in video game history, and it's pretty cool to share it with you. But now, let's move over to another one of my favorite topics, superheroes. Last night, Disney Plus dropped the first trailer for Moon Knight, starring Oscar Isaac, and this is a very different feeling Disney Plus Marvel show. This is a character that I think was originally designed to kind of be Marvel's answer to Batman, and that is also why I never liked Moon Knight. Truth be told, I always thought, wait a second, this is white Batman. What are they doing? Like, Batman would never wear a white suit that would glow out at night and chase down bad guys and stuff like that. So I never read the Moon Knight stuff when I was younger because I was a Batman fanatic, still am. But now, I've seen Moon Knight sort of evolve. This is a guy with associative disorder where he feels like he's got he has different personalities, and he basically lives different lives, and he doesn't know if he's awake or he's sleeping, and he's got different jobs and responsibilities. And Oscar Isaac is such a hell of an actor. He's so fantastic in everything that he does that it's going to be super cool to see him transform into this hero, but also all of these different personalities. And this trailer kind of gives you the impression that this is going to be a much darker, much creepier, much more violent take on a superhero than we have seen out of any of the MCU branded stuff. Now, we've seen some pretty heavy, dramatic and violent stuff out of the the Netflix shows, the Daredevil and the Punisher and Luke Cage and Jessica Jones. I loved all those shows. Not Iron Fist. Iron Fist, he sucked. But Moon Knight does look like it's going to be creepy and psychologically interesting, and also a showcase for the many talents of Oscar Isaac. Apparently, every one of his personalities is going to have a different voice, and obviously he's going to try to bring some life to each one of these characters that he's playing, these people that he's playing. And Ethan Hawke is playing this David Koresh type bad guy, this cult leader type guy that sees the demon that exists within Oscar Isaac and wants to channel that energy and let him kind of come loose. And I don't know how he factors in because, again, I never read the comic books. This is a character I don't know anything about, but this trailer is so freaking cool. I desperately want to know more about Moon Knight. So if you are a devout Moon Knight fanatic and a follower, let me know what issues of the books I should be reading or what series I should be reading. But the series looks dope. It looks really, really cool. I love the suit, love the branding and the logo, love Moon Knight swooping and it becomes the Disney Plus logo. That was a hell of a trailer, and it's so different, man. I mean, one thing you can say about the Disney Plus shows, and I think they've all, had their ups and downs, WandaVision and What If and Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Hawkeye and Loki, all of them have been a little all over the place. Generally super entertaining and ambitious, but definitely what you can say about each of them is that they're very different from each other, and I think this one looks just like something you would not expect out of Marvel, and I think that speaks to this character who is darker, and I know he's somewhat connected to Blade and perhaps Ghost Rider, so we might see some other sort of creepy horror type elements as part of this show, which I am looking forward to. Comes out March 25th, and I'm going to be watching it every week, and I'll come back and report on my thoughts on Moon Knight when it hits. But damn, it looks great, and this shot here that we see of Moon Knight just going to town in the corridor is just absolutely killer. It looks terrifying. I mean, yes, he was constructed and conceived as an idea to answer to Batman, but that looks super Batman to me, doesn't it? Looks so good. Yeah, and I love this look at the costume. It's like the character walking towards frame is like sped up frame rate or something like that. Super cool. All right, let's go back into the video game space and the television space because Netflix released a new take on Cuphead today. They released the trailer for the new series, the animated show that's going to be coming on in February. I think it's February 18th, if I'm not mistaken. Looks incredible. This is obviously based on the sensational two-dimensional action run-and-gun platformer that's impossible to play. It's so freaking hard. It raises my blood pressure every time I play Cuphead. I don't know if they're going to dip into that in terms of the comedy or the insanity of the show, but God, the animation for this is so fresh. I mean, it's classic, but it just feels so atypical for what we get these days. It's not a CG, musical, although there are musical elements in this thing. It just looks like we're going back in time with something that seemed inevitable and super cool. Like this not only harkens back to a simpler day of animation, but it feels like it would have existed back then too, which I think is just remarkable. And I think it speaks to the reason why this has become a multimedia juggernaut. There are comic books out there and action figures and toys. And I couldn't be happier for Studio MDHR out of Toronto, I believe is where they're based. I've never been there. I really want to go and visit those guys when we can leave our basements, because this just looks sensational. I can't wait to watch the show. If you haven't checked out the trailer, you got to head over to Netflix's YouTube channel and check this out, because it's very catchy music, super cool, comedic little quips back and forth by the different Cuphead characters, and at one point they're dipping cookies into each other's heads. Who doesn't love that? This is it's a killer show. Can't wait to watch Cuphead. And again, I'll watch it. They probably release all the episodes at once, but I'll come back with some thoughts on this show when it does come out. All right, let's move over and talk a little bit about that Kirby game that is coming up very soon. Nintendo released a trailer for Kirby and the Forgotten Land a couple of days ago, and I did check this out and was immediately entertained. I thought the sort of teaser reveal of this was very interesting. It's a three-dimensional Kirby experience that really evokes the 2D gameplay, so you can transform and take on all kinds of abilities, but the environments feel, robust and well realized, and like there's going to be a tremendous amount of 3D exploration. It feels almost like the Super Mario Odyssey take in the Kirby space, with these cute, pudgy, big head characters that are super squishy, and there's some darkness with the birds and the crows and things like that. But it just looks adorable, and it looks super accessible. But more than anything, it looks like it's loaded with tremendous fun and imagination. Like I'm psyched about being able to play a little bit of online with this thing. I believe you can play a little bit of online, but the gameplay just looks like there's lots of surprise and lots of treats and lots of rewards all the way through it. This one is also coming out in March, and Kirby, like, honestly, what a character in video games. Like, there's just been so many different versions of, like, it's a character you don't quite know what the game is going to be until you get the game, right? Because the people that make the Kirby games just surprise us with new ideas all the time. One of my favorite Kirby games of all time actually is Kirby Pinball Land on the Game Boy, the original Game Boy. I love that game. And then there was Kirby Mass Attack, where you had a bunch of Kirbys and you were having to take out all kinds of different characters by, like, getting everybody piling on a bad guy, and 10 of them were fighting somebody. It was just so cool. That was a Nintendo DS game. But Kirby in the Forgotten Land looks a little bit like it's taking a page out of the more recent 3D Mario experiences, transposing it to the Kirby universe, but letting us explore, and letting us sort of entertain a much more wider scope with the experience. Can't wait for this game. And it's going to be hitting the Switch very soon in March. Okay, I'll be back with a review of that. Thank you so much for watching today. I definitely want to hear your thoughts on the whole Xbox buying Activision Blizzard news and this event that has happened today. It's massive. I'll be back very soon with a fresh rundown for you, and I'm always streaming on twitch.tv/EPN. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you soon, and until then, play forever.